Writing accomplishments is a three-step process. First, create a master list, and don't be concerned at this point if you have too many examples. Next, express these accomplishments using the PAR or PAR format. PAR stands for problem, action, result. P is for the problem, opportunity, or challenge that required exceptional talent, something that you developed, resolved, or corrected alone or as part of the team. A is for the action or the approach that you took to solve the problem. And finally, R is for the result of your action. This is best expressed in quantitative terms such as sales figures, headcount, dollars saved, and other kinds of hard data. However, results can also be expressed in qualitative terms, defining how well you did something or the process you utilized. Examples of qualitative terms may include started the first of something or established guidelines for a new program. Your specific accomplishments will dictate the way you describe them, but remember, problem and action mean nothing without results. A tip: when writing accomplishments, use terminology relative to your industry and field of expertise. Excellent sources for relative terminology are want ads on websites and newspaper ads. Here's an example that includes each of the PAR components. When I became product manager, this $500 million consumer products company was in its third year of declining output and uncontrolled manufacturing expenses. I executed a consolidation plan that increased production output by 40% while saving $1.5 million in salaries and operating costs, effectively reversing the three-year trend. Try to avoid phrases such as observed, monitored, involved in, responsible for, assisted, participated, attended, provided. They can make you seem like a spectator. Your goal is to present yourself as an active participant, someone who has influenced the organization and has achieved powerful results. Use strong action words like built, created, directed, developed, influenced, and negotiated. For a more extensive list of action words, see the verb list in your DBM program materials. Once you've written out all of your accomplishments using the PAR format, it's time to consolidate them into concise statements. Let's go back to our example and reduce it down to a concise statement, the essence of your accomplishment. You might say, saved $1.5 million in operating expenses by executing a consolidation plan that increased production output by 40%. This shortened version conveys all of the appropriate information and drives your accomplishment home in the fastest, most economical way. While the previous example utilizes quantitative terms to identify results, you may also have experience that is best stated in qualitative terms. Here's an example of an accomplishment written in PAR format and stated in qualitative terms. Transitioned employee population and culture successfully from a family-owned paternalistic style to progressive policies and practices, thus retaining employees during a critical time. A tip: the PAR order is not important as long as all of the information is contained in the statement. Once again, our example: generated a 40% increase in production while saving $1.5 million in operating expenses by executing a consolidation plan. First, make a list of all the companies at which you've worked. Next to the company name, record the city or town where the company is located. On the same line, all the way to the right, list your years of employment. Next, beneath each company name, list the titles or positions you held, starting with the most recent. On the same line, record the start and end date for the period during which you held each title. Now, underneath each title, write a brief description of your responsibilities. If you had responsibilities that included managing large numbers of people or an impressive budget, include that information here. Refer now to your action verb list and select powerful action verbs describing your accomplishments. Finally, refer to your list of accomplishments, which by now have been written in concise PAR statements. From here, it is simply a matter of adding them in chronological order. Here's another tip: the amount of detail for each job should diminish as you reach further back chronologically. For work of more than 10 to 15 years ago, list only the title information and eliminate all of the accomplishments. Include employment prior to this only if it has a direct bearing on the position for which you are applying, and only if the title or company adds credibility to your experience. Your educational background belongs right after the professional experience section of your resume, with the highest degree listed first, followed by your major, name of school, and location. Include your degrees and schools at which they were earned, but don't include dates unless it is to your advantage to do so. For example, it might be advantageous to include a date if it reflects recent training in a new field or a newly completed MBA or other professional degree or certification. Here's something to remember. Do not list your education at the beginning of your resume. If you do put it there, it can look as though you feel that your education is more important than your work experience. It is not. However, if your education is from a school that is highly regarded in your field or industry, you can mention it in your career summary at the top of the resume.
What we're really looking for when we receive a resume is somebody's work experience, and the work experience chronologically followed by the education. So that really is not something that we're looking for initially. Many candidates, some candidates, do put that up in the front, but we tend not to look very favorably on that. The really important part of the resume is the work experience that provides the skills and the experience that the individual is going to bring.
Information about outside interests and activities should be included only if they show that you're well networked within your community or if it demonstrates your access to decision makers. Be sure that any personal data you include is relevant to the position for which you are applying. And if you include any information about hobbies or personal activities, be sure they demonstrate skills that are applicable to the job. Don't include any information about your health, marital status, politics, or religion. Include military data only if it was your full-time occupation or if it's applicable to your ideal work preference. Your resume will end with non-academic training you have completed, such as courses in management, communication, presentation skills, or computer-related training. Extensive technical competencies can also be listed separately. If relevant to your career search, you can also list professional organizations in which you are a member, or former memberships in which you held office. Here's a tip. References are no longer included at the end of your resume. If requested, provide them on a separate sheet of paper.
It's important for individuals to identify non-academic training as it relates to current or contemporary management trends. For example, if someone were a senior operations executive, if they have had significant training in quality initiatives or particular lean manufacturing initiatives, or they had been trained in the Toyota method or the Kanban system, it would be important for them to convey that in a resume.
Now that you understand what goes into your resume, you must determine the layout or format that you will use. Choose a layout that works for you. Make sure that it's easy to read. Be aware that executive search consultants and others may not respond positively to layouts that are unconventional with regard to typeface, size, and color of paper. Before you produce your resume in quantity, have someone else proofread it for typos.
So we do scan all of the resumes we get so that we can use them at a later date if they don't fit the qualifications, or if there are other candidates who are more qualified for the current opening.
More and more organizations are using scanners or other electronic means to receive, store, and retrieve resumes. When a resume, whether scanned or received by email, is electronically stored and analyzed, it works like this. First, a list of words which defines the job is created. After the resume is scanned, a computer matches these keywords to those contained in the resume. If enough keywords match, the computer will select the resume for further review. To increase your chances of passing an electronic screening, be sure to include in your resume keywords and phrases, primarily nouns, which describe specific skills and qualifications. For example, strategic planning, operations management, team leader, or project management. The following guidelines will also assist you in making sure it is easy for a computer to find, recognize, and retrieve your qualifications. Use white or light-colored paper printed on one side only. Use a font size of 12 points. Do not use staples. Leave adequate white space on the top, bottom, and sides of the pages, as well as in between the sections. Avoid the use of bullets, underlining, shading, italics, vertical lines, or bold text. While technology is continually improving, and many scanners can now read these formatting features correctly, it is best to be safe and avoid them unless you're sure the scanner can interpret these images correctly. Update your resume by reposting it to websites regularly, as many recruiters and HR executives review only the most recently posted resumes. Here's a tip. Remember that any information posted on a website is public information. For this reason, you may want to consider renting a post office box and getting a voicemail account to protect your privacy during your job search. Another option is to use a separate email account during this process. Many recruiters and companies solicit resumes via email and indicate precise specifications for responses. Key points for sending your resume via email include: inquire whether the recipients would like a printed hard copy for their records. Unless otherwise instructed, include a cover letter. Send the resume and cover letter in a single email message. If responding to an ad or position posting, be sure to use the position title and reference number as the subject of your email message. Be sure to read and follow the instructions given. Now you are ready to apply the process we've discussed here to your own experience and accomplishments. Refer back to this video if necessary and to your DBM program materials, and the first draft of your new resume will be finished before you know it.
The key thing about any job search is keeping optimistic and taking it one day at a time and giving yourself the best chance for success. I tell people that I talk to who are in between opportunities or looking for a new opportunity to spread a wide net out, get the networking hat back on, and just remember that those bridges that you've built up over your career are ones ideally that you'll use to go across that ravine into your next opportunity. So clearly you need to stay optimistic and focused on really what you want, and that's the most important thing, knowing what you want, because it's going to make it a lot easier when you find it.